show that sounds the most wild. The one that sounds that might get me in trouble. Welcome to the Mamacita Rica Podcast. I'm your girl, Lucy Lopez, and I am very excited that you guys are here today. You ladies. You Cuban women, you.
Mujerasas.
Mamacitas. That's so good.
Like
Although
that?
there's only one mamacita. We're like the baby mamacitas.
You are
We're the
not baby. Mamacita Rica is like a mood. It's more like a, you know,
Mamacita
who you
Rica.
are right now in your person.
Oh, yes.
You're a Mamacita Rica. Anybody can be a Mamacita Rica.
Maybe I like
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
I'll own
Tias,
that.
abuelas, best friends.
Yes.
The guy taking pictures of us.
Absolutely the most Mamacita Rica.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the vibe. It's a whole mode. It's a whole who you are within and what you're about to do in this world. That's how I feel what a Mamacita Rica is. Does that make sense? Definition. I'm super excited to have you here today. And the reason behind that is because when I got pulled off air by my own want and need, I missed an entire week of something that really went down in our community, and it wrecked my soul. And I'm talking about SOS Cuba. And I thought, man, if I were on the radio, who would I put on? And the two people that immediately came to mind was you, Vicky Collado, and Vanessa Garcia. People kind of know about you guys, but not really. And I think that's a problem. I think more people should know about you. More people should know what you're doing for the Cuban community, not just activism, but creatively. Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, before, really, honestly, like before the whole, I mean, we kind of live and breathe Cuba, really.
All the time.
Yeah, seriously. But before the July 11th happened, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah, I call it SOS week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were doing Why Cuba Matters, like lives, you know, that we're just like, hey, you just need to know this information.
Well,
you
and
just need to know.
What's really crazy that, you know, we have always funneled our passion for Cuba through our work, right? Like Vanessa has books on this. Like we've been doing this practically our whole lives, if you really think about it. But the month before, we start the live because what was happening was that Michael Osorbo, which I'm sure we'll get into,
Sure.
he goes to prison and Cuba's just doing like this turmoil, and we're like, well, we have to do something. Let's start talking about it. People are not getting the news the way that we are.
Okay, let's explain that for like the average bear.
Yeah.
When you say that you're getting the news a little differently than maybe I am, obviously, what does that mean? Are you getting direct emails, direct text messages and DMs from the people in Cuba? Or friends, family? Are they credible sources?
Yeah.
And can you open this bottle of wine?
Absolutely.
All of the above. All of the above. In other words, like it comes directly from Cuba. It comes from family, from friends, from organizations that we trust because they've been vetted for like years already, and organizations we've been working with. And then, you know, they are linked to the artists inside of Cuba and they're connecting to us directly. And then there's it's sort of like the news sources that you already know that vet everything. And so you go to them, and everything else has to go through this like huge process of sending it to people that you trust. Hey, this video that came out, you know this person? Who is this person? Oh, yeah.
So you guys are actually figuring out who are the people in the videos on social media, on...
Yeah.
Are they trustworthy? And it's a long process.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Every single thing. Yes.
Is this an obsession or is this, I'm being serious, is this something that you guys, like, I'm obsessed with certain things in life. I'm obsessed with my kids. I'm obsessed with writing. I'm obsessed with movies. Right now, how this room is lit. Like,
Yeah.
Is this an obsession that has become something part of your life? Why having to figure out who's in these videos? Why is that important?
I think it's a need. It's
A
a
need.
need because you have to translate the information that's coming out of the island, number one, to people that have no idea about what's happening.
And
on the
who are
island.
those people? Is that people like me? Let's be
Yes.
straight up.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
I could say, I think a way to think about it is like prior to me meeting Vanessa saw my brain, like literally saw my brain go from like, oh, Cuba, we'll miss it. Oh my God, like I have to do something for Cuba. I have to do something for Cuba. And then the like the mind blown of like, holy crap, it's a propaganda machine that is putting something out there. Nobody is seeing, like, this layer on layer on layer of uncovering.
When did that happen? Did that happen during Amparo, after Amparo, in between Amparo and what happened just now?
Right. So I had done the pilot.
Do you think it's between the Amparos and then at the end of the last Amparo? Because we had like 2 pilots.
Well, we had 2 pilots, and then it was those trips to Cuba.
Right.
There was something in my gut that said to me, Vicky, you have this short window to go to Cuba, and it's not going to be pretty right after that. Like, there was something in my gut that was like, hey, now.
Wow.
So I want to say that it's in the second trip to Cuba that I go to that something weird happened where she was supposed to go on the trip, then she couldn't go on the trip. I had to go on the trip. It was a very weird thing, and then if I hadn't had the first trip to Cuba where I went straight to my family's house, agua cubo, like, you know, I always say that agua cubo, like showering.
Agua cubo is probably what cubo is.
Yes. Yeah, like showering out of a bucket.
Yeah. Out of a bucket, right. Things that we only do during the hurricane.
So you just said you went to Cuba how many times?
4.
4 times. And you, Vanessa?
4 times. But here's the funny thing. Mm-hmm. When I met her, she had not gone to Cuba.
Right.
And then she like caught up with my 4 real fast. The last one was together. We took the last trip together.
So here's the thing with me and the whole going to Cuba. Mm-hmm. So my cousin Natalie, which I know I can talk about this and she won't get mad, and she has to sign a clause. Go ahead and sign it, bitch. We need to open this bottle of wine.
Hold on, because this is a lot.
It's not going to interrupt my story. The only person out of like my generation, like the young people of the family who went to Cuba, I believe was my cousin Diana and then my cousin Natalie. When Natalie went to Cuba, my family had a really big problem with that. They were calling her the baby communist. Yeah. They were, they went at her. Mm-hmm. I promised my grandmother that I would never go to Cuba until Cuba was free. So this is like a promise I made to my grandmother. I know a lot of people my age, older, maybe even younger, feel the same way.
Yeah.
I'm a little apprehensive to go to Cuba because of that, because of my father's connection to Cuba. He was worked in immigration. He plucked his cousins out of the ocean. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of history with, that whole thing. So someone like me who's never been to Cuba, when I hear you went 4 times, why did you go? Mm-hmm. And was it tough to make that decision to go?
Oh, do you want to give yours first?
Well, okay. So I tried to go to Cuba for 15 years. No joke. That's not an exaggeration or anything like that.
You tried for 15 years?
15 years.
Okay.
And when I say tried, like one of the times I had, the tickets were $500 back then because they were charter flights. You had to do all of this work to get, on the plane. And I had purchased these tickets for my sister and myself. We were going to go. We showed my mom. My mom
freaked out.
But to the extent that like the color of your jacket, fuchsia, like that, her face was like that. She had what I call her gusana sticking out
the
of
vein.
Her vein sticking out right here. And I was like, oh my God, my father's already dead. I don't need this,
on you. Right.
Okay, so I literally had to take the tickets, cut them in half and throw them down the toilet in front of her and say, okay, I'm not going to go. Until years later, at which point I'm in my 30s, early 30s, and I say, Mom, I write about Cuba. I'm becoming a person that people go to get quotes about Cuba, to get what it means to be Cuban American.
You do understand you're Cuba. Like the Wikipedia, the living, breathing Wikipedia of Cuba. No, the good parts. You do understand that, right? Like this was my frustration not being on the radio for that week. I cried about it. When I tell you I was crying, physically sobbing, because I was like, Vicky and Vanessa need to be on TV, on the radio. What can I, and everybody was like, you gotta chill. You gotta go to your hole and go create. Mm-hmm. So this is where some of that came from. So your mom is like turning the color of my jacket. Her gusano comes out. You flush your tickets down the toilet.
This happens.
What happens after that?
That's a couple of times of let's not say I go as far as purchasing the tickets because I'm only going to lose $1,000 like that in that way once. And it's not just that. It's also all the visas and the this and the that. And so I said, okay, I tell her, I'm going to go again. And it's always no, something happens. No, que esto, que lo otro. And then finally, I'm finishing my dissertation and I tell my mother, look, I can't keep writing about Cuba. I can't be someone who writes about this and says that I know about this without stepping on the soil, without knowing what it feels like when I talk about your building, without knowing what it feels like on the shores of Varadero for real, without knowing what it feels like in Cárdenas. I can't do that. I can't actually tell the truth without knowing the truth. So
did mommy understand that? Because I'm a Latin mom now. I'm a Cuban mom.
Yeah.
And I pretend I know everything when in reality I don't.
Yeah. Well, she understood it when I came home and I said, Mom, I'm going to go. Mm-hmm. I want your blessing, but this time I'm just going to go. And she said, okay, I'll go with you.
Really? Cheers to that.
15 freaking years later.
Damn.
That was the first time I went to Cuba. It was, sorry.
Where did you, well, I want to know all about this one. Let's try it. This is a cab. I think it's like from 2017. I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to open this bottle, and I did.
Well, you didn't.
Sorry, babe.
I did.
Vicky
it's my
did
fault.
Vicky did it.
Victoria Collado did.
Gino, it's me. I'm sorry, it's my fault.
So, hey, babe. How are you? Good? Okay. Okay, so you go with your mom. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's my thing.
Yeah.
About doing a trip with my mom. Mm-hmm. If I were to get in a plane and go to Cuba with my mom, I would be the entire time panicking that my mom le va a dar un soponcio as soon as she gets off the plane. Le va a dar una taquicardia.
Yeah.
She's going to die. Yeah. Something horrible is going to happen. I'm going to eat something and get parasites and fall out as soon as I come back to Miami. Something is going to happen. They're going to find out that my grandfather was once the director of agricultural affairs for Cuba, and they're going to lynch me as soon as I get off the plane.
Yep.
Are all those things going through your head?
Okay, so my grandfather was in prison for 15 years. Both of my family's last names are essentially like, for my whole life, they're like, we are blacklisted in Cuba. We're blacklisted. We're on the list where you die if you walk in.
You will die.
Right. So what happened at a certain moment in time is like, okay, here are these people. They weren't gonna kill us when we walked in. Like, they didn't kill us. But my mom was she honestly was like this with her eyes wide open, and she became a little girl. And I was like, I think it was the first trip I took with her that I was like, oh, I'm kind of like a little bit in the mom role here. This is like before kids, before everything, before marriage, like second marriage.
It's okay. Been there, done that. Doesn't matter, kids.
Before the real marriage, the one
that matters.
The one that matters. So it definitely, she was so stressed, and I was like, don't worry about it. We're going to go step by step. I told her because she was scared to leave the hotel. And mind you, bizarreness that we stayed in a hotel because you don't want to give your money to the Cuban government. But then she was so freaked out that she was just like, it's fine. For this one time, it's going to be fine. And I understand what I'm doing. And it's going to just be this time, because she just sort of rationalized the whole thing.
Wow, Vanessa.
No, insane. And then totally insane. So I would say, okay, Mom, let's go. We're here in Vedado. We're in El Vedado. This is after she almost fainted on the tarmac. That actually does happen.
Oh, like, my God.
Se
la aflojaron las rodillas.
Yeah. She stopped and she was shaking, like vibrating like a leaf. I had to hold her. Everybody was walking by us, and other people were like, oh my God, I know all the feelings I'm seeing. And it was, when we landed, it was all the clapping, and it's just like this flood of emotions. I have goosebumps. It's like all the things that happen on the trip.
It's everything I would imagine.
Everything you imagine it would be, and then some is that. She was so scared to make a step anywhere. And then, I had to be like, Mom, it's okay. Look, can you see El Malecón from here? We're just going to walk to El Malecón. And then I'd be like, okay, let's walk 2 more steps over here. Let's walk over here 2 more blocks. Ay, mira que I think 2 more blocks. And like this little baby was, she's like, Vanessa, yo estoy muy lejos del hotel. Estamos muy lejos. Like,
that's very interesting what you're bringing up. The whole, let's take 2 steps here.
Yeah.
Now let me show you this, now let's go here. Is that how you're feeling right now with SOS Cuba? Is this what is it? Are we holding everybody by the hand? And by everybody, I mean current Cuban Americans living here in the United States, los cubanos viviendo en la isla, and the people who are not Cuban who really can't relate to this.
Well, I would say that it is 2 steps, but we don't know where we're going. Where I feel like Vanessa kind of knew where she wanted to go, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the trip of like taking her mom here and there. I think that we know we're headed towards freedom, and that's what we want. And I am a firm believer that's going to happen soon. I think that what's happening, for example, to the Cuban American community, to people who haven't been tuned into this for a long period of time, who haven't had the like, oh my God, this crap my family has said for all these years is true. It doesn't come out of nowhere. I think that they have to catch up so fast in such an abrupt way.
That it's uncomfortable?
It's uncomfortable, and also not dissimilar to what happened to me. It's just that I was having it privately. Like now, everybody's like, here you go. Learn everything about Cuba right now. Share the right thing, except you just learned about it right now.
Get it right.
Get it right. So, which is really where we started with the whole Why Cuba Matters lives, was because it's like we're doing all this work to disseminate all the information and then just trying to catch people up. Little did we know that a month later, July 11th would happen. And so we're like, I don't know what that is, like that internal beeper, that internal thing that's just like, okay, start doing this thing now. And then before you know it, the world has changed, whether for better, for worse. I think for better. I think after July 11th, everything is now better. It's going to be better.
So that's what I want to talk about. I feel that there's a really big group of people, I think everyone falls under this umbrella, where Cuba was like a topic, Viva Cuba, Patria Oída, que si la calle 8, que si Emilio Estefan está, delante del Freedom Tower, aquí viene Rosa María para allá, ahí están ustedes fueron a Washington, you guys went to Washington, and all these things are happening, and it's pam, 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 and all of a sudden, it's gone. Why the fuck does that happen? Why does everyone forget about Cuba? What is it? What are we doing wrong?
I think one, it's a state of the world. I think that the same thing happened with Haiti. The same thing happened even with Afghanistan, which is even more, I would say, open to more people. Like more people in America are like, oh yeah, because we had a hand in that, right? Like we are in a society that does that. I think we can't fight it. I think we have to use it.
Yep. And I also think that it's not gone. It's just that you can't see it all the time. And that there's a consistency of like sowing. Like I think about, the Arab Spring in Egypt, and then like what that means. What is the Cuban Spring? And like, what does that mean? And I do think that it's in these hills and valleys of moments where we're just like continuing to plant and plant and plant and plant, and then it's like here's the freaking counter revolution.
So what you're planting is information. What you're planting is awareness.
I want to say one thing, that
Please.
The people, the light of this is inside Cuba right now. They're the ones who put their lives on the line to go out in the streets on July 11th. Without that action, this doesn't happen. We have been ready on this side because of all the stories that we carry, because we're free over here, because everybody who made it across the Florida Straits is now free. But it's a very different animal to be inside Cuba and say, I'm going to do this anyway, and I'm not going to escape, and I'm not going to escape by the water, even if it is, the most deadly and scary thing there is. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it here. I'm going to risk my life here for freedom and for my children. And that is massive. And without that, we don't have those headlights, and we don't have the fucking beams that reach across the water to us,
And I think that also in a way, this moment of quiet can be a moment of blessing. Yeah. It's a moment to regroup. It is, one of the first things, especially when all this happened, the message is always like, this is a marathon. This isn't a sprint. This isn't gonna, you have to keep going.
I know, but isn't it Cuban? Isn't it so fucking Cuban of us to be like, pero, es desesperado.
Absolutely.
Estoy desesperado.
It's been 62 years.
Por favor, apúrense, que se está cogiendo
it's
su tiempo.
62 years. Of course you're going to feel that. But I think that the one thing that we have to get in our heads right now. And I think that it was something that I felt at first at a moment. It's like, well, you're not Cuban enough to be Cuban and you're not American enough to be American. Sáquense eso de la cabeza. Stop eating shit. Sorry, I hope we can curse in
Yeah, no, this is the Mamacita Rica podcast where vulgarity is encouraged.
But
that's
stop
the
eating
rica part.
the rica part. But essentially, stop eating shit with that and start knowing your job, your tool.
Right.
You know freedom.
Yes.
You know it.
Yeah, I do.
You know freedom. You know how to use social media. You are the voice. For years, exiles have been the voice on the island. It is surrounded by water. The only stories, how we get stories, how we are receiving stories is from exiles, from people exiled and having gone to the island.
Right.
But if we don't, as an exile community and Cuban Americans who know English and Spanish, who know hipster culture and know croquetica language, who know that if you don't understand that your job is to translate and all you have to do is propel the message forward. It might seem stupid. All it costs is 2 seconds to do your homework. You do have to do your homework and you have to know the truth.
Right.
But you just have to keep propelling outside of the bubble. Even if it's one person, but I think that, social media does this thing where you want to consume it all at the same time.
But it's social media is good and bad, as we all know. And one of the great things about SOS Cuba Week for me, that's what I keep calling it, was all this great information that was coming out of your social media, Rosa Maria Paya, cubadecides.com, all these websites that and influencers that I feel really do get the answers right. And, circling back to what you said earlier, where you're like, oh no, I get the news. And then I'm like, well, who is this? And can we find out who this is? Yeah. And speaking of who that is, how many protesters from the island of Cuba are currently jailed and are on hunger strike? Do we know that number?
Okay. So I think the total has reached up to 1,000, close to 1,000. There's less than that now in prison. Some of them have been released. I don't have the exact number of how many are there now. Actually, we could probably look it up.
Look it up.
Do you want me to look it up?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean it.
Yeah, look it up.
Look it up, Vanessa.
Take out your phone and look it up.
We have an iPhone.
Let's
use it right.
It's in your pocket. I saw
and
it.
then, and we can get back to that number. But just so you know, I remember seeing all this information and then thinking, somebody's going to get this information and claim it like it's their work. And that bothered the crap out of me because that's like the petty LaBelle in me.
Petty LaBelle.
I can be totally petty. And I'm like, why is all this information? Why aren't they crediting Vanessa and Vicky? Why aren't they crediting this person that I know this is who posted it up? Does that get in our way? Or do we cagarnos en la noticia and keep it going?
I think for this one, you're like, if it flies, it flies.
And you know
what?
Better. It's better because at the end,
I mean, it's good that if when you have a panel, that it's actually the people who know their shit.
Right.
Then that's great. But if it's about like, dale, métele mano, spread the news.
Go ahead.
Like, go. Yeah, I have the numbers now. As of September 13th, the reason why it's so hard to say this is because they change continuously. Like there's numbers here from September 12th to September 13th. It's different, but these are the last ones from Cubadecides. So these are the people who have disappeared or have been detained. 982. 526 remain missing or detained. So some of these people are totally disappeared.
So when you say missing, and I'm going back on my own experience, and by own experience, not because I was born in Cuba, but because of what my parents would tell me and how they were pushed out at gunpoint. Right. When you say they're missing, is that assumed that they were murdered, that they were killed?
No,
they might be in a dark prison.
And they're holding a hold place where they're torturing them and or just messing with them,
or their family.
Right. We also don't talk about the people who are incarcerated in their own homes.
Yes.
So that does exist in Cuba.
For sure.
Yes. Somebody who just got exiled right now, Catherine Bisquet. She was trapped in her home because they put un agente in front of your house. And you can't come outside. And there's videos of this, of people going, and why can't I come out of my house? Why are you here? What's happening? Right. And these are people who have their ovaries and their cojoncitos very well placed. And they go down there and they confront
ask the
it.
questions.
But I'm talking about like you have un agente sitting in front of your house,
right?
And you can't walk out.
An agente, an agent of the state,
agent of the state. This stuff is all like very, spy movie.
Yeah.
It's actually real. I think that when people actually, now is when we're beginning as a global community to understand that Cuba is Stasi land. Like essentially, like everything that you saw in those movies happens in Cuba. You know what I mean? And I think that there isn't a clear understanding of that is real and that it's crazy.
I also think that that's part of the moment.
Yeah.
Mind blown moment for you. Wait,
because
I actually have a sound effect for those moments. I've been calling it a self-realization sound effect, but I will use it now. Audio guy, hit. There you have it.
That was way too happy for Cuba, but
that's exactly
but it's exactly what it is.
Te das cuenta.
But it's a long process to realize like those things are not false. Like our parents aren't actually crazy when they say things like there's agentes who follow you. Like that's not.
They're on social media right now. You could see it. You could literally see them. The people are filming them.
Right.
It's crazy.
So okay. So here goes. So I'm gonna start talking the way that the old people in my family talk, and I think I'm old in that category as well. So I'm gonna go ahead. Sometimes I get really upset as a Cuban American, as because I'm like, they don't want us. How do I say this so it won't come out so horrible? Okay. ¿No será que el mismo gobierno americano no le importa lo que está pasando en Cuba? That the United States government really doesn't give a shit about Cuba. What do they care? It's just an island.
But it's not just an island.
No,
it's an island that's attached to Russia.
Okay,
it's an island that's attached to China.
So
it's not
why
just an island.
don't they pay attention just a little more?
I think they do. Yeah,
I think they do.
So what is it? They downplay it?
I don't know if it's downplaying it. I think it's all tactical moves. This is me, una como mierda hablando de esto without.
I think there's a lot of things. I think that this part is true. I think that, and this is something that is in the conversation, that the Cuban government is one regime for 62 years.
Right.
They know their line. They know exactly what they're going to do, and we change presidents every 4. Meaning they can just wait till the next one, and then the regime can. And then just like have that kind of teasing conversation, knowing that there are certain things in place that the United States can't fuck with. Like the United States can't really invade Cuba. We cannot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I would not think that would be the way to go. That has failed. That's not how you kill dictatorships. You kill them by giving people a vote. You kill them by the people rising and getting a vote, not by military coups. That hasn't worked. Not by invasions.
And neither Russia nor China wants that to happen in Cuba.
No.
They don't want the people to have a vote. Of course not.
Good tactical spot there.
Right.
Yeah. It's a hold.
And they're so close to us.
They really are. I mean, that's the whole missile crisis.
Blew us out of the water.
Yeah. That's a Cuban missile crisis.
And let me say that the mission has always been, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but they're constantly the voice of, the imperialists to the north and the imperialist nation and the everything. There is no one more imperialist than Cuba. They literally train people to take over governments. There is no Venezuelan revolution without the Cubans training them. There is no Sandinistas without it. All of that is a form of spreading an empire. That's what they're doing.
They are, and they're saying that they are the oppressed, right? So like they're literally attaching their tentacles into all of Latin America and beyond. And they're like, we're not the oppressors. They are the imperialists to the north are the oppressors.
Okay. You know when you get like, you're like, like our blood is boiling. Let's break it down, ladies.
Let's do it.
If you were to make a top 3 list of things that we need to do immediately as a community, top 3. What would make that list? Number 3.
Okay, the first one that comes to mind, it doesn't matter where on this list is, we have to stop fighting with each other.
Yes.
And wait, what did you say? Stop being petty labels?
Stop being petty labels.
Yes, please. We must stop that. That can never happen again. And right now, more than ever, we cannot fight amongst each other.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It literally doesn't.
You do not block other Cubans. You do not, meaning you have the conversations, and you try not to get angry if you don't agree with them, and you move through because that's democracy.
And
it's messy.
And keep the focus on the freedom for Cuba. In a free Cuba, we can have all these discussions and we can vote to it, and then we can make a decision.
Okay.
But we cannot still pretend that Cuba can afford us to not be and I'm talking about people that I personally do not like. And I'm like, I have to stand next to you right now, because right now the more important thing is a free Cuba. We'll sort it out on the other end.
Because to have an exact unifying voice, that's called a dictatorship. In a democracy, you have many voices.
Many
That's
voices.
the point.
That's the beauty of democracy.
Embrace them and your differences. Wonderful. I totally disagree with that, by the way, and we're going to do something else. Great, but we're all for Cuba.
I thought she was talking about now. I'm like,
No,
wow, how cool. My first fight.
No. So we usually don't disagree.
No.
But like, you can say that to someone.
Right.
Actually,
and still stand next to them and believe in the freedom of Cuba.
Yes.
Absolutely. Because
So that's number 3 on the list.
Yes.
Can I add
add.
an addendum to that one?
Add a cherry.
A cherry to that is also let people do things their way.
Oh my gosh. I am
I'm
so
not gonna
happy you said that.
I'm not going to expect Lucy Lopez, who has an audience or does things in Lucy Lopez way, to do it the way that Vanessa Garcia does. And even though we work together, there's very different ways in which how Vanessa approaches the subject and how I approach it.
Totally. Sure.
And so this is part of the infighting of like, well, you shouldn't do it that way. You should do it this way. Just do it your way. There are people who connect to you. Let those people connect to you. It's about banding together. Stop trying to shut someone down because you want the credit for the freedom of Cuba. We're all going to get the credit for the freedom of Cuba. Every single person who's under the oath. I swear, it is.
We're all going to get it?
We're all going to get it because every single person at the bottom of an ocean who has escaped, and even if right now, unfortunately, their death is a number.
Right.
They did something. We have done something. You are doing something. Everybody has done their piece because you don't free a country by yourself.
No, it takes a lot of people to do that.
Yeah.
Isn't that what's been hammered into our heads into every social studies class since the moment you stepped into school?
Yeah.
It takes a lot of people to create change.
You can't even say one word without saying, and that is on the shoulders of this person, and that is on the shoulders of this one, and that is on the shoulders, and holding hands with, and then touching the toes up. That's very like an orgy.
So, okay. It's the Mamacita Rica podcast.
Like,
chill. Chill with that. Okay, so number 3, let's not fight with each other. What's number 2 on my list?
Okay, and these are the top 3 for precisely.
Precisely. Focus. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say to.
God, there's secrets happening on my own show that I don't know about.
We have to convene.
Okay, they're right now they're having secret conversations. My producer's telling me we've gone 30 minutes. I don't care. We're gonna go like at least 10 more minutes and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Vicky's taking this one.
Okay.
So that was number 3. What's number 2?
Follow the sources that have been vetted by those who like people like Cuba Decide and start propelling those voices forward social media wise. That's something you can do literally
Today.
Everybody.
Where can I get these names?
We
Go
can
to cubadecides.com.
Actually,
Cubadecide.org
or .com?
.org.
Cuba Decide, and on Instagram at Cuba Decide. ADN Cuba, Diario de Cuba. The problem with those two are that they're in Spanish.
It doesn't matter.
Translate
Let's follow
it.
them and
Yes,
translate
correct.
it.
That's
Right.
correct.
Yeah,
Which is what a bunch of people are doing.
Okay.
A bunch of Cuban Americans are
All
doing.
right.
Yeah. Are we at number 1 or?
You want to get to number 1?
Yeah.
No,
I'm
we
ready
can
for
keep
number
going.
1.
I think that.
Wait, is this number 1?
This is number 1.
Well,
The
let
next
me have a
one's-
drink before we get to number 1.
Let's just sip.
I think you'll agree. If you disagree, just
I'm
be
pretty
like,
sure.
look, we're gonna do another number 1.
Yeah.
Oh, we could have 2 number 1s. There's no rules on my podcast. Yeah. Okay. So number 1 on the list.
I think it's a joint number 1 of don't stop and believe that it can be true. So do not.
Is there like a
dance?
repentera? Yes.
Really, really, you can't stop. So even though it feels like there's a little lull, there's so many people that haven't stopped. There's so many people that have not stopped and that they're not gonna stop.
Okay.
And I think there are a lot of people that are going to tell us along the way to stop. One, because they themselves have been discouraged and they don't believe it anymore.
Sure.
And that's fine. They're freaking tired. They've been doing this for 60 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's
Like I can't ask my mom to start
no,
continue
no.
fighting.
She did her part.
She already did her part.
Because you're
She
literally
left the
poor
country.
thing. Yeah.
She came here with nothing.
No.
She started from the bottom. And she's at the top right, and she needs to chill out. Now
Exactly.
it's me.
Yeah.
I need to carry.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is ahora me toca a mí.
Yes.
And the whole reason behind this podcast is so I can create a creative table for my daughters, for other young ladies who don't have the answers to everything.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough that I've got a Rolodex right here. Children, this is like an old school phone book where I go and the letter C and Cuba, Vanessa, Vicky, and Rosa Maria Paya. And this is my way of letting my kids know that despite the stereotype out there that Cuban moms know everything because, you know, the mom is always right, I don't know everything, but I have a Rolodex full of people that do know a lot. So, I mean, that whole thing that you said right there, that's very powerful. And I think we forget it's okay to take a break.
Totally.
And
got it. I think that's one of the biggest things that I was falling into. I was like, did everybody forget?
Yeah.
No, and here's a little trick. No. This is like a pro tip. A Cuba pro tip
is this
on
the
how
cherry
to keep
on
it
number
going.
one? This is cherry
number one. I think that there's a couple things. One, I think there's two things. One, very clearly paint what a free Cuba looks like to you. And for those of us that believe in manifesting and who believe in like painting the future, you got to start painting it. That's number one. But number two, I have, and this is my analysis as a non-political analyst.
Persona. Got it.
I have realized, and the thing that keeps me going, is that the Cuban government is quite lazy and probably doesn't have all the resources it needs to do the full oppression.
Oh, I love that.
So,
I love a lazy target.
They're super stupid.
So what they do,
they're super smart and sometimes stupid, like all human beings.
It's a dumb.
Sure.
They're human beings.
Right.
So one is turning them into human beings. Two is understanding that if you can undo yourself, I don't have to do it. If you demoralize yourself, then I don't have to send somebody. If I send someone there, I can't send someone there. Dude. And the third part of that pro tip is, and this is the saddest one, but when they start pushing their grip a little bit harder and when they start showing their tentacles more, that means you're getting somewhere. That is not the moment to stop.
We got under their skin quick that week.
Listen, I mean, right now, the Cuban people said, we're going out onto the street. They said it out loud on social media. They said it to the government. They wrote letters. They said, we're going out on November 20th, guys. We're just going to do it. We know what happens in this country, but we're going to do it, right? We're going to do it. The government responds. It takes them forever because they can't figure this out. They're in a fucking dilemma. What do I do? You know? They say, okay, guess what? November 20th is National Defense Day.
What does that mean?
They put all the military out on the street for National Defense Day.
So then the people say
the day before, the 18th, the 19th, 20th, military on the street. And then the people say,
fine, we're going to do it on the 15th. And what do? Well, we're going to have a march for a bloqueo on the 15th. So here's a thing that I think that we as a group have to do is SOS week number 2.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is SOS
we
week number 2.
have to be ready. And we have to start putting it right now. And we have to start saying, hey, November 20th is coming. November 15th through the 20th is coming. Our people are going to put their bodies on the street. You better have your phone ready and you better start propelling that story forward right now.
This is what I was talking about. This. I need dates. I'm a listicle.
November 15th through the 20th.
Notes.
That's it.
This is me.
Yeah.
November 15th
through the 20th.
Through the 20th is when we have to
echarle a little bit before.
¿Cómo la canción?
Échale leña.
Échale leña.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
and let me say that the anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall is November 9th.
Ma'am, I know this because of what you wrote. Hello.
Yes.
She's obsessed and in a very good way.
I'm obsessed. If the Berlin Wall can fall, Cuba can be free.
You should have seen her. We went to Berlin.
Dan, I don't mean to interrupt you,
no.
But that was the strongest thing or statement I've ever heard.
It's real.
Because I remember the Berlin Wall falling and how my parents and my grandparents were crying watching this on TV. But for you to say here, 2021, on my podcast, drinking wine, became a little more real. You really believe that, don't you?
I really believe it. Like, it's all, like, I feel all the that's the inside of my blood rolling around right now. It's like, just, I really believe that.
I'm going to end the podcast there.
Yes.
I want to thank you both for being here today.
Thank
you, man,
for having us as your first guest. That's pretty big.
I love you girls.
Well, we love you
hard.
No,
we love you hard too. It's like intense.
And before I sign off, can you give anybody like a little taste of what you guys are collaborating on and what might be dropping in November 5th? I don't know.
Well, something that includes
Lucy Lopez.
Mamacita over here.
Yes. Yep. So we have a project that currently doesn't have a title.
Right.
We're finding the right title.
Right now we're calling it VCL.
VCL. Mm-hmm. But the project itself is it's the start of a very long process of collecting exile stories. One day we will get Cubans on the island stories, and we're doing a portrait series and some fun things attached to that. So you will see the Lucy Lopez tell you a piece of her story. But we're very proud of that project. That project's been pure spirit.
It's a hybrid audio visual experience, and it launches on November 5th at Books and Books.
And does a little tour throughout Miami.
And then it will continue from there, because those are the first 22 stories of many, 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 many that we will.
This is a traveling thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Well, it has a little tour in Miami.
This.
It has a little tour in Miami. It
started. It will unveil itself. It will unveil itself. We're confirming the second two locations, but the first one is set. Confirming the second two, and then the goal is then to travel it larger. And broader.
Okay.
Yeah.
You might be in Berlin.
You're just gonna be all over the place.
You know, when we were gonna sit down, I was gonna talk about like, all right, like, do you have any advice for the Hispanic creative?
Do you want us to answer that?
Yeah, in 170 characters or less.
Yes.
This will be a tweet.
Be you, not the version that people want you to be. Meaning, you will be, in my experience, you will be asked to be tokenized and whatever that idea is. But even the idea of like Hispanicism is just you being a human being. You be a human being. Do things your way.
Do not be their prop.
Yeah.
You are not a prop.
Yeah, essentially.
Your culture, your Hispanicism, your Cubanism, your Puerto Ricanism, Dominicana, lo que sea, you are not a prop. Don't let them put a price tag on you. You put a price tag on them. Advice for the creative?
Essentially, it's very similar. It's remove the label and name yourself. Yeah. I mean, it's essentially that. Take it out.
Oof.
Do you see why I work? I swear, every time I go somewhere with her, I'm like, do you see why I work with her?
I love it. We're going to go drink wine now. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
That was